Hello everyone, this is Lala and today I'm going to be ranking the pre-juries of Big Brother Canada. If I remember correctly, I think I did this video a few years ago, but there's been a few more seasons since, and to be honest, when I made that video, I didn't rewatch all of the seasons like I have this time, so I'm entering it with a fresher opinion. So, when I look at the pre-jury, I'm mainly talking about the events that happened in it, like some of the drama, and mainly the events of the HOH, Frida results, the eviction, and the dynamics that changed throughout that period of time. So, obviously, I'm not including BBCAN 8, so that should be a given at this point. And since it's the start of the season, it's usually where things are the most interesting pertaining a season since there's a lot more huskess and a lot more dynamics and things aren't as set in stone. So you really need that foundation that the pre-jury gives. So I'm just going to get right to it. At 10th is Big Brother Canada 7. There was absolutely no other choice but to put this season as dead last, despite it having only one good week. The first week was pretty boring, but that tends to be the case with Big Brother Canada. But there's also no veto during this week, which was lame, and Laura was such an easy person to send home, since she was talking a lot about HOH Adam and his girlfriend, Samantha. We move on to the only interesting week of the season, where Dane wins HOH, who continues the control of the Pretty Boys, which consists of Anthony, Mark, Adam, and Dane. Kira was going to be the target, and they end up whining and complaining, but Mackie dug a hole for himself after Adam stopped the Samantha back door. And it was entertaining seeing this split vote, and how the Pretty Boys pulled off sending Mackie home without exposing their alliance. Things quickly got boring again when Chelsea won HOH and wasted it on Kaylin of all people, and nothing interesting at all happened during the week. She ignored all the signs of a guy's alliance, as well as Samantha and Kira, and she didn't realize why she got had in the following week, once Dane nominated her and had to deal with the uncomfortableness of Kira. The person who has been targeted the entire season in Samantha finally wins HO8, and she's willing to make a huge move. But she has Adam negatively influencing her to make a move against her best interest, which she seems to be aware of, but ends up giving up by targeting Kiara, who goes home unceremoniously, despite there being a twist introduced that Kira could have used to save their and Samantha's game. Out of 1 week, the pre-jury was in utter borefest, and the high of this pre-jury doesn't match the highs on any other season. So at ninth regarding its pre-jury is Big Brother Canada 3. A part of me is shocked that the pre-jury of this season is so low, when it really shouldn't be. One thing that should have benefited this season regarding the pre-jury is that it is very short, as it is only 4 weeks, but it all just falls flat. The first week starts off pretty weirdly, since there's no HOH competition or HOH at all, and they don't have access to most of their stuff. Risha was the house target, and they did all of the nomination slash veto sanctions within the first day of the week. Everyone is kind of just sitting around making thousands of alliances that are hard to keep track of and aren't even on the episodes, where Russia is voted out by Canada instead of the House. The second week has the first HOH and Bobby win, and he initially wanted to send the sketchy Kevin home, but right after the nominations, Kevin overhears the woman talking about the guys in the washroom and exposes it to the guys, though he wasn't knowing about the Top Shop alliance that had power. Of course, that changes the target to Cindy, and she's unceremoniously sent home. The third week is definitely a mixed bag, and a mix of good and bad, as it had the final instant eviction ever, where Neha was making some inroads after Kevin already nominated her, and we had underdog Brittany winning HOH and shutting down the Top Shop alliance, where she got Greg backdoored, though he shouldn't have been the person she targeted, and there's definitely some drama in this week. The final week of the season regarding the pre-jury ended in a complete bore, as Bruno wins HOH to send home Johnny, who sulked over Kevin not caring, and he went home unceremoniously. I think things would have been more interesting and the dynamics would have been stronger had the twists not been thrown in, since this was the cast that wanted to play hard and to create their own methods to do such. So the pre-jury that I am ranking at 8 is Big Brother Canada 1. I don't recall there being a whole lot happening with this pre-jury. The first week involved Suzette being the first to pick up the phone, hence her becoming HOH, and she immediately nominated Tom and Emmett, which I believe happened on the first day, as well as the veto competition that Tom won, where a cat was unceremoniously sent home after Tom saved himself. The Quattro alliance between the four guys of Emmett, Tom, Alec, and Peter had a lot of power during this early portion of the season, and they all had their side slash connections as well as their romances. Julian ends up sending Danielle home after the latter volunteered to be a pawn, and the feud between the two of them really didn't lead to anything interesting happening, since it's in general just a bunch of passive aggression behind one another's backs. The following week, Tom is getting ready to send Suzette out the door for payback, and they take a few shots at one another during the week, and Anil gets cursed out by Suzette before he is twisted out of the game. The one somewhat interesting week of the pre-jury is when Gary wins HOH, though they redid the competition after Emmett, who was initially the HOH, was caught cheating, and there's quite a lot of infighting with the Quattro Alliance, though I don't think it was good for Alec and Peter to push so hard for Tom to go home. Anyways, there's quite a bit of drama here, and the week ends with Tom and Liza unceremoniously going home, as it is the double eviction. The final week of the pre-jury ended on a dud, where Alec, the person who makes the safest moves ever, wins HOH and he decides to take out Suzette, since people don't want her in jury, and he wants to make the safe move, and Emmett kinda shit on Suzette on her way out of the season. In general, there's really not a whole lot happening with the season, especially on a gameplay point of view, and while the cast is pretty good, the dynamics weren't the most interesting at this point. So at 7th, I have Big Brother Canada 4 regarding the pre-jury. I was going back and forth between this season and another season as to which pre-jury should be the 7th placer, but I ultimately settled with BBCAN 4. What I will say about the season is that stuff was always happening, and we started it off with some intrigue right off the board, as there was a blindside of HOH Levita as the pawn page went home over the target Kelsey, and it immediately split apart the house. The second HOH caused Jared, Kelsey's showmance, to get his payback with Levita and Shari, and while there was some interesting conflict, especially in the beginning of the week, and their target ends up staying again, I don't think it was a blindside, and the week was not very noticeable. Levita wins HOH again, and you would think that she would get revenge on Jared and Kelsey, right? Nope. She decides to go after Cassandra because she overheard Cassandra making a bad comment during the HOH competition, or after the HOH competition, and Cassandra was one of the reasons why Levita ended up staying last week. They had a bunch of arguments that was very entertaining, and we saw the metal group do their work again, where they flipped another vote and blindsided Levita again by keeping Cassandra and sending home Christine. The following week has Joel winning HOH to finally break up the trio by nominating Kelsey and Raul, only for Levita to get the blame and drama for that, especially from Jared, and Levita also ends up getting backdoored by Ally Maddie in the double eviction. Dallas ends up torpedoing his game due to the aftermath of the double and refusing to take part of Tim's BBOS nominations. But the end of the week calls for a divide in the house that was really interesting, and the drama that led up to Maddie barely staying over Dallas. There was some interesting weeks and some boring weeks, but I think the cast just being so unlikable made this a bit worse. So the pre-jury that I have at 6 is Big Brother Canada 11. Yes, it was this season that I was debating about whether to switch it with Big Brother Canada 4 or not, but I ultimately chose to rank this higher. The thing with this pre-jury is that it's 3 weeks of gameplay, but because week 1 is really 2 weeks, it makes the pre-jury 4 weeks, making it tied with Big Brother Canada 3 as the shortest pre-jury period in Big Brother Canada history. Week 1 in general was very boring, since Santina ended up being a pick-me for the Guys Alliance, as she decided to target Shawn Michael, who she promised would be safe, since they did the HOH competition and the other competition together, and he wanted to work with her. And it really didn't lead to any drama, and the fact that it's really half of the pre-jury tanked it down quite a bit. Ultimately, the next 2 weeks really pushed this season higher on this category. The big target in Dan ends up winning HOH, and Zach is convinced by Ty to destroy the all-male alliance by booting Roberto, and the fallout of that move was a lot more explosive than I and other people were expecting, though it did start the downfall of Zach. Kutsi ends up winning the next HOH in the final pre-jury week and wanted to make a huge move, as she did not like how Zach and Ty were playing the game, but thought targeting Santina was a good idea. And also, Vanessa was also causing some fights here and there during the last week or so. Of course, there was Lettergate that really was a month in the making, and is one of the weirdest and most unique things I have ever seen in Big Brother history. Not just Canada, but US as well. But it led to a huge fight after Ty and Zach failed to gaslight Hope for protecting himself, and when they cannot get Hope expelled. Zach quit because he knew he was getting voted out, was the culmination of this. A lot of good stuff here, but the first half of the pre-jury is just boring, and overall, it isn't as great as the others above it, but it makes for a great halfway point. So at fifth is Big Brother Canada 2. This season is very frustrating to talk about regarding the pre-jury of the season, since there are a decent amount of good and not good moments. We start off the season with Paul winning HOH and sending home Anik, though we saw a bit of the tension during the little that we saw of that week overall. The second week involves Andrew winning HOH, and of course he wanted to get his lick back revenge on Paul when he nominated Paul next to Paul Neda. And then Andrew was called a racist and a sexist, only for the entire house to defend him and yell at Paul, as well as Paul's allies, though they didn't show that part on the episode. Kyle ends up getting backdoored at the suggestion of Kenny that week, and Ika ends up winning the next HOH, where we are expecting her to make a huge move against the dominant First Five Alliance, and she knew that those guys specifically were targeting her, but nope! She alienates her few allies, nominates a horrible pawn in Paul, has a weak target in Heather, and the worst part is, her pawn ends up staying. Rochelle ends up winning HOH, where she is thinking about targeting Heather again, but then she's tricked by Sabrina to take out Ika, which was dumb as hell, but it was Ika's karma, and she delivered the great letter shredding moment, and of course there's that yelling match that happened after that, as well as the drama between Sabrina that didn't make it onto the episodes. I have already discussed my opinions on Canada's HOH very thoroughly over the last year, and how much I really dislike it, but while it broke up the First Five Alliance, the week itself was pretty boring, and there's so much pandering from the house guests, and they couldn't really plot too much since Canada was in control. And the fact that this flip was given to the other side instead of them really earning it really just took the wins out of me. And the final week of the pre-jury has the other side, their name really not ringing a bell at the moment, wiping out Sarah and Kenny with little interest or intrigue. Overall, the pre-jury started out very strong, but it fizzled out during the last few weeks of the pre-jury. So at fourth, I have Big Brother Canada 9. Now that I think about it, this is definitely a season that I might have put too hard regarding the pre-jury, but I honestly don't feel like changing it right now. Of course, the twist of this season pertaining to teams caused half of the house to be saved and the rest of the house to be nominated. And if I remember correctly, everyone had to vote during the week, where Julie ended up going home due to Latoya flipping things last minute and saving Josh. Josh still entered the second week as the main target after he barely escaped the first round, and he did cause his fair share of drama during the week. And the house was still divided, and Judson also throwing random as hell house meetings, though there was that failed flip to boot Rohan, which ended up with Josh going home. We get to the third week, where the other side decide to actually align once they realize that the Sunsetters are a thing, and it is such a rare thing in Big Brother, where the other side actually forming together once they realize the larger alliance has already formed. And Victoria has a crazy reign, where she goes after Latoya. The Sunsetters argue with Victoria, Rohan, and Cal throughout the week, making it very fun. Honestly, the following week is pretty boring, as Kiefer won HOH with the obvious Rohan and Cal nominations, and nothing of interest really happens, though them throwing Victoria under the bus would lead to Victoria, who wins the secret HOH next week, to target Austin, which she does win in the following week. I think the pre-jury starts off good, but it definitely fizzles out during the last 2 weeks of this pre-jury. While it is consistently enjoyable, it doesn't have the highest highs, and it not ending well caused it to damper on this category. So the bronze prize of third goes to Big Brother Canada 5. I do think that all the pre-juries from this point onwards are very good and strong, so it's pretty hard to choose between them. We have arguably the best first week ever in Big Brother Canada, where we had a split vote and the villains already going at one another, where the drama that happened in the week led to Mark going in a split vote. Dimitri went from the block to HOH within like half an hour, where he ended up being aligned with some of the people who literally voted him out hours earlier, and there's some drama with Dallas's downfall that was just pretty fun. The third week has Nada getting her revenge on Cassandra for trash talking her, and their new Persian princess fan favorite feud comes to an end here, though Jackie starts going off the rails here and starts her Black Widow arc and her just snapping at everyone. And the feud between Ika and Nada starts growing this week. The fourth week was very weird, since it had the events of a normal week done backwards, where the HH really had no power outside of being the sole vote, and the House made the nominees, so outsider Gary had no chance, though he had some fights with Neda before he left, as they've had years of issues going back to the sideshow during BBCAN 3. The final week of the pre-jury really had the main alliance blowing up as the Nekda versus Ika feud really starts to come to blows here, while Bruno and Kevin's position in the house weakens after they let Dylan and Emily stay on the block and left them to hang. In general, there was always something going on in each week of the pre-jury, but I just think that the others are a bit better and have some higher highs. And I don't even think I mentioned all the good stuff that was happening here. So the silver prize of second goes to Big Brother Canada 10. I am struggling as to whether this should be second or first place, but I'm feeling like placing it here for now. The first week was a pretty standard week, though Jess did cause some drama with Moose, if I remember correctly, and there were a few fights otherwise, and the target was shifted once Jess won the veto that week, and Melina ends up going home. We move on to the next week where outsider Marty wins HOH, and it seems like he was potentially a target for most people entering that competition, and randomly targets Jay, who no one was really targeting, and there's no reason for it. There's definitely some unaired drama involving Jay, and Betty was starting to freak out, as she had her fights with Kevin around here, but there's nothing really stand up about this week overall, though the 8 alliance that was set to dominate the season was about to crumble. Carl won HOH and decided to target Moose, who was someone he knew from real life, and nominated his ally from another alliance named Stephanie on the block. They all start screaming at one another, which was pretty fun, and I think Betty argued with Moose here as well. And Moose ended up saving his life in the game by winning the veto. But Kyle doubled down on ruining his own alliance by trying to send Josh home, and this immediately bit him in the butt as damn near everyone in the house told him to essentially screw off and blindsided Stephanie. While Gino winning HOH with most of the house against him seemed somewhat exciting, and him turning on Kyle was so random, it never really was an entertaining week, so it was kind of boring and uneventful, despite some of the most random events happening here. And the final week of the pre-jury was pretty interesting to me, since Jess won HOH, and right after being in a somewhat decent position after their rough beginning, they fuck it up with targeting Herman, who ends up winning the veto, and then sending Tanisha home, despite them being in an alliance. There was some drama in the week, and everyone was sick of Jess, who ended up going home in the double in a nice little bow. I just found the shifts and random gameplay moments to be very entertaining. And the gold prize first goes to Big Brother Canada 6. I was not sure about the season having the best pre-jury on the list, and for a while I did have it as second. It is one of the longer pre-juries, which could have been a fault, but I actually think it benefits this season, so when it has a dead week like the first week, it's not bogged down by it. There was the heaven and hell twist that split half of the house, where the house that was not safe had one member become HOH in Johnny, and the other being evicted in Rosina. Outsider Ryan wins the next HOH, and you would think that an interesting move would be made and the power would shift, but he caves on nominating his 2 allies in Hamza and Andrew to attempt to infiltrate into the majority, and the 2 nominees did try and failed to save Rosina the prior week. Andrew did cause some arguments in the beginning of the week, but he just kind of fizzled and the week ended very unceremoniously. Hamza wins the next HOH, and it's definitely one of the best weeks of the season, with Johnny convincing him to target Jesse, and the Red Room Alliance had to take a hit, which caused some drama with Jesse and Hamza, and Jesse kind of going down the hill. Erica wins HOH and decides to go after Veronica, though it was a very weird move, but Veronica had her house meetings that were just very cringe, and Hamza was sent home in a double eviction where everyone got so damn emotional. And I thought it was pretty funny. Honestly, it's pretty akin to how people reacted to Judd during the double eviction in BB15. Erica wins HOH yet again, and right when she is getting suspicious of some of her Red Room allies, and knowing that a big move needed to be made, she wasted her HOH on getting out Marin, who was irrelevant to the dynamics. The final week of the pre-jury was clearly a build-up, where Kayla won HOH when most of the house was targeting herself and Derek, but she ended up going after Ryan, though because of the twist that was happening with Ryan being saved by Canada's veto, Kayla put Erica on the block, sent her home, and both Erica and Johnny lashed out at her. Overall, this pre-jury just really has it all. It has great gameplay, drama, some interesting dynamics, and it never really feels really slow or worthless, which I can't say for some of the others. Alrighty, so that is my ranking of the pre-juries of Big Brother Canada. I kind of just made this video really quickly because I'm literally in the process of doing like 3 to 4 videos, and I forgot about this, and I want to get the categories for the season rankings that I'm eventually going to do to be over with before BBCAN 12 ends, and we're at the halfway point, so I just wanted to get it in there. So regarding the season rankings, I have obviously the jury portion and the endgame portion to do, and then after that I'll compile all the categories to have my official season rankings, which will be a very long video. But my BBCAN player rankings should be out very shortly, or at least in a few days, as I've been working on it all week. I am working on a few other videos as well, and yeah. So thank you all for supporting. You can like, subscribe, all that jazz, and I'll most definitely be back with a video soon. Bye!